Hey everybody, this is Joe Langworthy here with my co-host Thomas Woelfel for episode 28 of Tailgate Talk, the Six Column Sports podcast. So Thomas, we are halfway through the season. If I had told you that halfway through the season we'd be 5-1 with a loss to LSU, would you have taken it?
Absolutely. If you'd have told
That's what
me
I thought.
if you'd have told me we were 5-1 after 6 games at the beginning of the season, I would have been thrilled. If you would have told me we were 5-1 after going up 22-7 on Saturday, I wouldn't have been very happy. And so,
Right.
for me, I'm very frustrated with the game, and I think we're starting to see issues with the team that maybe we weren't expecting. But it's also important, with the way you just framed the kind of the episode here. It's important to take a step back and think about where we're at in the grand scheme of the season, and
Mhm.
where expectations were to start the season.
Right. And I think we're gonna talk more at the end about, like you said, perspective as a whole. I did just want to kind of start the thing out by, it is the first loss of the season, so I don't want it to sound like we're being real doom and gloom. The criticisms, at least for me, I assume for you as well, the criticisms I have of the team after this game, if you had told me at the beginning of the year these would be things I'd be complaining about, I would have said, okay, I'll take it. Um, like, yes, it's frustrating that there's still, some dumb penalties, but the dumb penalties are blowing our chances to beat LSU, not blowing our chances to score a touchdown against LSU, like I kind of thought we might have at the beginning of the year.
Right.
There's just some perspective that I wanna put out there, and I actually think Mizzou fans reacted better to this loss than I expected them to. I haven't seen a whole lot of doom and gloom. There's some of it, obviously. There's always going to be the negative Nellies that are out there just wanting to complain about it, anything and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I think most Mizzou fans have their head on straight and are still excited about this team and are still going to show up, which is, I think, a key that needs to happen. But um, either way, disappointing to lose. Never what we want. What are your, just right off the top? What are your biggest takeaways from the game on Saturday?
Um, yeah, look, I think certainly mistakes didn't help. That was you could not have had a worse time for our center to forget how to snap a football than, 1 yard to gain to get a first down. And then now I think it was
Mm-hmm.
2nd and 6, and you basically have to start thinking about throwing the ball. Took rushing out of the playbook basically, and they're
You're
basically
talking
the
about
defensive end.
that last drive.
Yep.
I think it was third and
And it,
6, but yeah,
okay, well, made it 3rd and 6, and their
right.
defensive end clearly knew that we had one option, that was to throw the ball, and you
Yeah,
just basically bum rushed and the quarterback. And but I mean, also, we missed a field goal, and so I don't know for sure. I mean, for me, definitely the penalties were part of it, but I think the larger issue was the defense. I mean, we
mm-hmm.
go up 22-7, and that was basically at the beginning of the second quarter. And to be fair, we didn't have a legitimate stop really the rest of the game. They went 3 quarters. One possession they did not score on was because they missed a 30-yard field goal.
Mm-hmm.
And another possession, the last possession they didn't score on, was because they had the ball with a minute and a half left. Anyone watching the game knew they were running it 3 straight times just to make sure the clock didn't stop. And we
Right.
stopped them then. Like,
Made
we
us
didn't
use our
really have
timeouts.
yeah, we didn't have what I would consider to be a legitimate stop the last 3 quarters of the game. So,
Mm-hmm.
I know I listened to Gabe DeArmond's podcast today, and of course he says, well, the snap was what blew the game. But it'd be like if you're a St. Louis Cardinals fan and you lose 10-9, and say, yeah, well, you shouldn't have gotten picked off first base, or Jordan Walker, struck out with a guy on third and one out, and you end
Right.
up not scoring. Yeah, okay, but you still scored 9 runs. It should have been enough to win the game. We scored
Mm-hmm.
39 points. If you'd have told me at the beginning of the year that we put up 39 on LSU, I would have put my mortgage on us winning that football game. But our
Right.
defense just has not been what I think we thought it could become. I think they've taken a step back, despite the fact we brought back 9 of 11 starters. It didn't help that probably our best edge rusher decided to get himself kicked out of the game for spitting on a player. I mean, that was just it was a meltdown defensively. They had guys wide open, and Jaden Daniels and company,
Neighbors.
Malik Neighbors deserve credit. They're very good football players, but man, our defense didn't help themselves out, and they couldn't get a stop the last 3 quarters. And I think that ends up really being what decided the game.
Right. Yeah. And I think you and I talked about it in the preview episode. It kind of became, for all intents and purposes, an arena football game where, one stop there would have, I know we lost by 10 points, but if we get one stop on offense or on defense, they don't score a touchdown, they would then have had, 39 points?
And
we would have been tied if we had one stop.
Even that. That's not true. We would have been winning because we were down.
You're right.
We were down by 3 when we threw that pick 6, and I cannot blame the quarterback. I can't blame Brady Cook for that pick 6. You're under 50 seconds left in the game. You're on your own 5.
Right.
Yeah, it's a pressure. That's a pressure throw. You can't expect anything on it. Everyone knows what's coming. But yeah, we were up 3. If you get one stop in the second half, we're winning that. We win the game. You win the game. And we missed a field goal. They said it was blocked. I've seen the replay. I don't think it was touched. But, granted, it's a 44-yarder. He made a long one, too. You can't expect a college kicker to make every single kick. But,
right.
Yes, the defense has got it. You can't go basically 3 quarters without a stop.
One stop,
or an interception. How about a turnover? We didn't create a single
of some
turnover.
sort. We didn't create a turnover. We didn't do anything like that. And it's like, I think me and Nate were talking about this morning with Bill Connolly's SP plus, or I don't know what it was, the success rate thing. The 45. We both Mizzou and LSU had a 45.1% offensive success rate. I don't really know what that means. I assume it means that on 45.1% of our plays, we were successful. Right. But
which has to be like 4 yards, probably 4 yards or more or something.
Those metrics, were so almost identical. It came down to literally 1 or 2 plays. And it's like we said, we had them in third down a couple times. And if you just make one play, I think there was one where we had like a 3rd and 20 and Malik Neighbors.
We had a 3rd and 9. They had a 14-yard rush. This is all just in the last 3 possessions. A 3rd and 9, They had a 14-yard rush. A 3rd and 5, they had a 31-yard run for a touchdown. And then I think we had them like 2nd and 6, and they had a 45-yard touchdown. It was –
yeah. It's just one play really does, yes, we lost by 2 possessions technically, but one play is made on defense, we win the game. Like that's really what it comes down to. And yes, the bad snap was bad. The false start on that was bad. The not getting the first down on when you have a 2nd and 1, like just run the freaking ball and get the first down and keep moving the chains. It was a bad play call. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was, just a terrible series of events right there that didn't lose us the game. It's kind of the same thing of like, okay, you're down 1 with 3 seconds left and your kicker misses a 55-yard field goal. Your kicker's not the reason you lost the game. You shouldn't have ever put the kicker in that position. The defense shouldn't have ever put the offense in that position. The offense scored 39 points with no turnovers ever being generated, meaning we started on the 25 almost every possession.
We only had one possession, I think, where we'd have what I'd consider to be a short field, and that was on a botched punt that they had that gave us the ball in like the 40, which would have been our own 40. So we still had to go 60 yards. Everything beyond that was longer. Like you said, it was basically 25 yards every drive because we were getting the ball back after they scored.
Right. And we still scored 39 points on an SEC defense. As bad as LSU's defense is, they're still an SEC defense. There's still a lot of talent there. We scored 39 points. The offense was not the issue, no matter what bad plays they made in the last 2 minutes.
Right.
This is on the defense for sure. All we needed was one more made play. Like, and that just comes down to consistency and focus. I think, that's going to be what we harp on this whole time, or what I harp on at least. This defense, we know it has talent. Yes, we need more pass rush, but like Johnny Walker has talent. He's just not focused.
You're spitting on players and you're kicking people at the bottom of the huddle, you're not as focused as you need to be. Absolutely correct.
Right. Yeah. So it's just focus, and this defense has so much talent, and that's what's so frustrating about it is we all see, KAD is playing out of his mind, but then there's a focus, lapse between him and Dalen Carnell on that touchdown at the end of the game, where there's some blown coverage because somebody, I don't really understand zone football super well to be able to explain it, but I've seen explanations.
I'm not sure our guys know it.
And that's the thing, is I'm not sure our guys understand it either, because from what I've seen, Carnell was maybe supposed to take him, but then KAD stayed with a different guy, and Carnell didn't stay with him, thinking KAD was going to be coming over and playing the back third of the zone, and he didn't. And then all of a sudden, I think it was Neighbors, is literally wide open, and it's like, how do you leave the definitely second best wide receiver in the country wide open like that?
Yep. You got
just mental lapses. Just mental lapses.
1A, you got receivers 1A and 1B with Burden and Neighbors, and you left. Right. I mean, Neighbors there were multiple times where he catches the ball and there's not a player within 10 yards of him.
And so, Burden doesn't get that benefit.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't get left open like that.
He didn't have that benefit against South Dakota.
No, he didn't. No. So I agree with you 100%. I think part of it too, or a lot of it probably, is the expectation level between the offense and defense. I mean, it's wild to me if you really think about it. If you sit back and think about it, we had a tight end that forgot how to catch a football.
Oh my
he dropped
gosh.
4 passes, and I didn't
want to blame the offense, but I really want to blame Tyler Stevens.
And I'm not even going to blame him. I'm going to blame the coaching staff. That's a deal where clearly it was in his head. They left him out there, I'm sure, to try to instill confidence. But you don't do that against LSU. Instill confidence against, South Dakota. Instill confidence against Vandy. Don't do it against LSU. Put the kid out there that's been catching the football. That doesn't make any sense to me. But you left him out there. He drops 4 passes. You have, like we said, a couple crucial penalties with false start.
I think it was him that had the false start on the extra point, which obviously didn't really matter, but
no, still
he's obviously in his head. He'd already had 2 drops. Take him out.
Right, but he struggled. Like the offensive line, like we said, struggled with pre-snap penalties. That's a problem. Brady Cook throws his first interception of the year. And you sit there and say, well, shit, there's no way we put up any points. We still scored 39 points. So it's okay. Yes, we could have been better on defense. We probably should have been better offense. I mean, we probably should have been better on offense.
Yeah, we probably should have scored more.
But you can't score 39. You can't score 39.
Should be enough.
Bingo. You can't score 39 points and then blame it on the offense. So, the defense, I mean, you're sitting there, beginning of the year, we thought last year they were top 25, top 30 squad.
They returned defensively 11.
Returned 9 of 11 starters. Johnny Walker's been every bit as good as any defensive end we had last year, probably. He's been our best defensive end this year. Point being, they should be producing results, and they're just not doing it. I know Blake Baker at Miami, his first year was very good. His second year, the team took a step back. That it could just be coincidence that you're seeing that in 2 different places,
or it could be a
pattern. And I know at Miami, I think the entire coaching staff got let go after that, so he didn't have a chance at a third year. Obviously, he's going to get a chance at a third year at Missouri. I don't want to look too far ahead, but he's got to get this thing turned around this year, and we're going to have to see something, I think, next year, because
right,
you just can't let it get too far. I mean, if it gets to the point where the defense is costing you football games like that, then it's a problem. Our offense, as good as we've been, I don't think we can anticipate our offense scoring 39 points every week. We can't.
Right.
Our defense is going to have to win us a couple of football games if we're going to get to our 8 or 9 wins that we thought we were going to get to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you completely. But I do also want to kind of step back off the ledge and give LSU their props.
Yeah, they're good.
LSU's offense, that's the best offense we're going to face. Most likely. I mean,
okay,
Georgia is efficient, obviously. And
I'm a little bit nervous saying that, given the fact Tennessee's dropped 135 points on us over the last 2 years.
Well, okay.
But yes,
the best
should be
best against what we are going to do.
The most talented. It's going to be the
things.
most talented offense we'll see for sure.
I mean,
without a doubt.
Jaden Daniels is unreal. I was at the game in person. I'm not going to say he was as good as Johnny Manziel or anything like that, but he was the real deal. He's up there with some of the better quarterbacks I've seen. Just the combination of his speed and, I always with guys that are fast like that and run a little bit, I always kind of think, okay, well, he's just hitting wide open receivers. Yeah, he's doing that a lot, but he's also dropping dimes. And I mean, he has some accuracy.
He was very good.
And he has a big arm. He's very good. Malik Neighbors is very good. That running back, I don't know what he's been doing, like where he's been. He was good. And their offensive line, I've heard, was struggling. They didn't really keep a clean pocket for Jaden Daniels, but it doesn't really matter with Jaden Daniels. Like, you don't really need to keep a clean pocket. You need to,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if the defensive line if you get out of your lane on the defensive line,
yeah.
Even if you're in the backfield, it doesn't do you any good because he's gonna slip right to where where your lane was, and he's off to the races, and he outruns your as we saw, he outruns your linebacker. So
right.
He's very difficult to defend, and that's where the defenses of back in the day where we'd have some stud at the defensive end position make a difference, because that's really I think what we were lacking. I think when they played Florida State, Florida State's got a defensive end that'll go top 10 in the draft, and the difference was when he got in the backfield, he was able to finish the play,
right.
And there's just not very many defensive ends in the country that can do that. And obviously we didn't have any of them on Saturday.
Right. So, so that's, I think just want to make sure we say that though, that LSU's offense is very good. So I'm not lacking in hope that the defense can get this figured out, because I do think that, this defense isn't going to let 49, it isn't going to give up 49 to most teams, or 42.
No,
it shouldn't to most teams.
And
as many lapses as they've had, they are not going to do that much more.
Yeah, and we won't see another quarterback that runs as well as he does the rest of the year. I mean,
right.
I mean, at Kentucky, Georgia, very traditional quarterbacks. Even the guys that can run a little bit, but not near to the. I mean, Jaden Daniels was as quick as anybody we had on defense, and you're not going to have that from a quarterback the rest of the year. You got a couple of guys that can run. Sanders or whoever it is down there at Arkansas can run a little bit, but not like Jaden Daniels. Once that dude took off, I mean, it was just a track meet. So,
right. So
yeah, they were very good.
They're very good. So as much as we criticize the defense for this performance, some of that could have very much just been Jaden Daniels just being better.
Our defense, to be fair to them, they were not playing a bunch of schlubs.
They didn't let up 49 to South Dakota.
That's a top three. That's a top 3 offense in the country for sure.
Yeah, they're going to put points up on everybody, and as down on LSU as some people are, because they've lost to Florida State, they lost to Ole Miss. If they go beat Bama, they're right back in the driver's seat for the West, most likely. And so that could be a team that goes to Atlanta. And that's our only loss right now. So I think that's a good segue into talking about, just mid-year report card, like where we thought we were going to be and where we are now, with our only loss being to LSU, who I'm not giving them the West yet or anything, but is a contender in the West, and thus a contender to, make a, probably not the playoff with 2 losses, but, anything's possible at this point. College football's crazy.
Well, I mean, if they put up 45 plus points on everybody from here on out, even with 2 losses, if they were to beat Georgia, 49 to 16, then they're going to probably be in the playoff.
Right. Especially since one of their losses was their first game. So, but yeah, so just talk about expectations. I don't remember exactly what we both had as
I remember
season. What did we have? Did you go look it up, or did you just write
No,
it
I
down?
just remember this. You had us at 5-1. You had us beating Kansas State but losing to LSU. I had us losing against both Kansas State and LSU.
Okay.
And then for the remainder of the year, and we can go through this too, and maybe we can decide if we want to change our minds at all. I think I had us winning the next 2 games, Kentucky, South Carolina. You had us losing against Kentucky, beating South Carolina. So basically, after the South Carolina game, we both had us with 2 losses. And then Georgia, we both had as a loss. I believe we both had Tennessee as a loss. And then
Florida and
you had us at 9-3. So you'd have had us beating Tennessee, Florida, and Arkansas. I had us losing to Tennessee and then beating Florida and Arkansas. I had us at 8-4. You had us at 9-3.
Yeah.
So at the current standing, I think they've won one more game than I had predicted, and they've won the exact schedule that you had predicted at this point. Do you feel any differently now looking at Kentucky?
Yes. I mean, I think that we can't discount the Kentucky curse. I'm too superstitious to not talk about that a little bit, because it's almost got to be a real thing at this point. Because we've lost 3 or 4 straight to them.
4 straight, yeah.
And it's just rough. And I don't go into it. If it was any other team, looking at them and looking at us, I'd feel relatively confident. I mean, not like it's a surefire gonna win kind of game, but like, yeah, we can go in there and get this win. And I do think we can go in there and get this win. The players probably aren't as superstitious as me. They don't really care about that. But yeah, I think that this is a very, very winnable game. I think Vegas has it as a toss-up. And I think that's partly because they want people betting on Kentucky. They want the money there because, I don't know, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about with Vegas, because I still don't really understand how they do that witchcraft. They're right so often. It's weird. But
right.
It just does seem like a game that Mizzou, things just seem to favor us. I think Kentucky's offensive line has struggled, and we struggle to get pressure at times. But if it's a bad offensive line, we can get pressure, and then they're not going to be able to throw the ball because our corners are really good. We do pretty well against the run. I think the South Carolina rushing attack was kind of a fluke because, we were keen on Jaden Daniels a lot, and that allowed the running back to let loose. And then because he let loose, that kind of allowed Jaden Daniels to get free a little more. And so I still think our rush defense is really good, and so we'll be able to kind of hold them in check as long as we can tackle. I know their running back's really good. But yeah, I'm not going to spend too much more time talking about Kentucky, because we'll do a Kentucky preview episode in a couple days. But yes, I think we can win that game. I think South Carolina, we win that game. Go into Georgia 7-1, which is going to be great. Georgia, I'm not predicting a victory at all. I'm not saying that, but they have looked vulnerable at times. I think they struggle with a lot of the same things we do in terms of focus, and putting teams away. Obviously, they didn't struggle with that against Kentucky this weekend. So, you got to hope they didn't turn a corner. But yeah, I mean, I think my prediction of 9-3 is still very much on the table, and I think is kind of likely at this point. But I also think that looking at it, you can look at it and say 6-6 or 7-5 is also on the table. But I also think you look at it and 10-2 is on the table. So it's my confidence level has not changed really.
Yeah, I think you look at the last 6 games, and I think 5 of them you could almost just flip a coin on. Georgia's. I mean, look, until Georgia hasn't lost a game in 2.5 years, so until they do,
right.
I'm not gonna anticipate we have a good chance to win that game. But
at the same time, somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to beat them eventually.
Yeah. Yes. You just can't assume it's going to. You can't assume it's going to be your team, regardless of whether you're Alabama or Vanderbilt. You can't assume that you're going to be the team that does it. But yeah, I mean, I think these next 2 weeks are going to be very interesting to me. I mean, we just seemed, and I think part of it too on defense is we feel banged up. I know in the secondary we aren't fully healthy, and it shows. We've had a number of different dudes in there at linebacker. Kind of getting healthy. I think this would be a fantastic week for a bye week. Unfortunately, we have to play 2 more games before we get that bye week. So, I think it's going to be if Coach Drinkwitz can get the team to show up in the next 2 weeks and play their A game, I think that's going to be a huge testament as to what he's able to do as a coach and how he can keep kids motivated. Because, I mean, you're setting up for a tough game in Lexington. They just got their butts whooped on national television against the top team in the country. Now, I will say Mark Stoops' teams have, if you go back, they've got a track record of losing after big time butt whoopings. I mean, that's like, if you take a look, very often they'll lose 2 straight games. It's almost like getting beat really badly the first game ends up beating them the second game too. But I mean, it's going to be a 7:30 o'clock kick Eastern time. Their fans know it's important. Their team knows it's important. It's just as important to our team as well. But, I think if we can find a way to, grind out these next 2 games, then like you said, we're headed into Georgia with, if you go to Georgia with 1 loss, then you have a chance to leave there as the favorite to win the SEC East. And that is something that I wouldn't have dreamed of to start the season. So everything's still left out there. If you win one of the next 2 games, you're still likely looking at 9-3 or 8-4 as a serious possibility, depending on those last 3 weeks. So I think there's still a lot of exciting football left ahead. I would love for a win against Kentucky. I think that'd help us sell out against South Carolina. That's going to continue to help us on the recruiting trail, help to build the culture, help to build the program. But these next 2 weeks, I think, are going to be very crucial, and not only how the season goes, but how we feel the direction of the program is at the end of the season. So definitely a big next couple of weeks for us.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want anybody to hear what I'm not saying when I say this. I am not saying that any of this is going to happen. What I am saying, though, is even with a loss to LSU, every single goal, whether it is a rational goal or a stretch goal, is still on the table. If Brady Cook has in his mind that we can win the national championship, that is still attainable at this moment. Losing to LSU doesn't really change that. If we run the table, we can still make the national championship. If we win in Atlanta, we're making the playoff. That's still, we haven't blown that yet. Now, is that going to happen? No, I'm not saying
not
that it is
possible.
But what I am saying is that goal, those goals are still there. and the team needs to just focus because everything they want to accomplish is still attainable. So focus these next 2 weeks, like you said, get through these next 2 weeks with wins and healthy, get even more healthy in the bye week, and everything's still there. So, I think that's the goal. That's what needs to happen. And I think that it is very possible that it does happen. And, so it's more fun to talk about wins for sure. So I hope that they, get back to doing that after a 1 week break.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And one more thing too. Let's also just enjoy Luther Burden.
Yeah.
Can we not
we
do
have
that?
him for,
I mean,
so
we got him for a year and a half.
6 more games this year, plus a bowl game, most likely. At least one more game. So that's 7. And then at least 12 games next year. So we have him for 19 more games.
And he's as good as a receiver as you're going to see at the college level. So
correct.
Enjoy it.
And he's having fun, and it's fun to witness. So
absolutely. And so, keep that in mind. Go watch him play. Cheer him on.
Buy tickets. Go watch him play.
Let
me know if you have Florida tickets. I have family coming into town for the Florida game. So if you have Florida tickets, hit me up. But but yeah. So any other final thoughts on the midseason report card?
Not really. Offense A, defense C, coaching B+. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about those.
A at times, F at times.
They're like a C+, so maybe a B-. They did hit a 61-yard field goal to win us a game against Kansas State. So it's tough to be too low.
They can't figure out kickoff returns. Well, we could talk for a whole hour about that one.
We don't have time for that.
We don't have time for that
one. Zoom. We got to pay extra for that subscription on Zoom.
Right. We only have a certain amount of time on the Zoom call, but that's about it for us. Thanks for listening, and we'll have a Kentucky preview out later this week, and I don't know, maybe we'll start talking a little more about basketball, but we still have a few weeks before that really kicks into gear. But thanks for listening, and MIZ.
ZOU.